There's something fundamentally flawed in how we've been taught to approach money. From a young age, we learned that to prosper, you have to work hard, wake up early, study diligently, and relentlessly strive. But if that were truly the case, why do so many intelligent, dedicated, and hard-working people remain trapped in a life of scarcity? Why do we see individuals with 2-3 degrees, fluent in more than one language, living in debt, while others with no academic background whatsoever seem to attract wealth with an almost magical ease? What do they know that others don't? The answer is both simple and unsettling. Money doesn't work for those who chase it. It works for those who understand its energy. I learned this the hard way. There was a time when I was earning only $4,000 a year and owed $6,000. I was broke, unmotivated, and adrift, until a man placed a book in my hands, Think and Grow Rich. It was like igniting a spark within me. I realized the problem was never a lack of knowledge, but the programming that controlled my mind. And that's what I want to talk to you about. How to rewrite your mental code and make money work for you, not the other way around. For a long time, I believed success was simply a matter of effort. I grew up hearing that hard work pays off, that money comes to those who dedicate themselves more than others. And so, I worked non-stop. I put in overtime, took on tasks that weren't mine, tried to impress others to gain recognition. But deep down, the harder I tried, the more money seemed to elude me. It was like running on a treadmill. I moved, I sweated, I got exhausted, but I never got anywhere. And perhaps you felt the same thing, that constant feeling of struggling, always trying yet never seeing the return you expected. The truth is, effort alone doesn't create wealth. It creates exhaustion. There's a profound difference between acting with purpose and acting out of desperation. I knew people who worked 15 hours a day, honest, dedicated, and still lived in debt. And I knew others who seemed to do far less, yet everything they touched turned into prosperity. This intrigued me. Why did some people seem to have a Midas touch, while others were constantly putting out financial fires? The answer was within them, not outside. Effort is important, of course, but it needs to be guided by a conscious mind and aligned energy. Working hard with a scarcity mindset is like trying to fill a bucket with holes. No matter how much you pour in, it all leaks out. I experienced this firsthand. When I started my own business, I spent entire days trying to make it grow. I believed the harder I worked, the faster the money would come. But it didn't. On the contrary, it seemed the more I forced it, the further the results slipped away. Until one day, exhausted, I stopped. I literally stopped. And I realized something that changed everything. My effort was coming from the wrong place, from fear, from need, from scarcity. I was working to escape poverty, not to pursue wealth. And the universe understands vibrations, not intentions. If you act motivated by lack, you continue to attract more lack. But when you act with peace, confidence, certain that you are deserving, things begin to flow naturally. Think about it. How many times have you desperately strived for something only for it to slip through your fingers? And how many times, when you simply relaxed and trusted, did things start to work out without much effort at all? This isn't coincidence, it's frequency. The law that governs effort is the same law that governs gravity. It doesn't fail. And when you understand that money doesn't respond to force but to clarity, you completely change how you act. Money is like a river. It flows where there is space, direction, and balance. But if you try to control it with fear or anxiety, you create invisible blocks that impede its flow. I remember a time when I worked at the Toronto Fire Department. I earned little, felt trapped, and believed I needed to work even harder to escape that situation. I didn't know that what I lacked wasn't effort, but understanding. One day, a man handed me a book, Think and Grow Rich. I didn't understand everything immediately, but that reading planted a seed. It made me realize that the secret wasn't to do more, but to think differently. Physical effort without mental clarity is like trying to push against a wall. True strength comes from the alignment between what you think, what you feel, and what you do. And perhaps this is the biggest illusion of our era, believing that success is synonymous with exhaustion. Most people believe they need to sacrifice to win, when in reality, sacrifice is what prevents them from prospering. Because when you work tired, worried, afraid of losing, Your focus is on lack, and what you focus on expands. Now, when you work with joy, inspired, visualizing the outcome, the universe conspires to make it happen. You start to have different ideas, notice opportunities that previously went unnoticed, attract the right people. This isn't coincidence, it's synchronicity. Think about it. If effort were the only variable for success, the worker who wakes up at 5 in the morning and takes 3 buses a day would be a millionaire. But that's not how it works. Effort without consciousness is merely survival. Effort with purpose, that indeed is prosperity. And to transform effort into purpose, you need to change the origin of your work. Ask yourself, am I doing this because I want to grow or because I'm afraid of not having enough? The universe doesn't respond to your words, it responds to your vibration. What truly changes your life isn't how much you do, but how much you believe in what you do. When you act with faith and confidence, time seems to work in your favor. Money starts to circulate, doors open, and effort ceases to be a burden and becomes a pleasure. You begin to work not to survive, but to expand. Money isn't the result of your physical effort, it's the reflection of your emotional energy. And when that energy changes, everything changes. The path to abundance isn't paved with sweat and suffering, but with understanding and alignment. It's not about chasing money, it's about learning to walk with it. When you understand this, effort transforms into natural movement, and money becomes a partner that works with you, not against you. Everything in the universe is energy. Every thought, every emotion, every decision you make emits a frequency. And money, however physical and tangible it may seem, is just another form of energy. It flows, vibrates, responds, moves towards those who are in harmony with it. And this explains why some people seem to attract prosperity with ease, while others struggle their entire lives just to keep their heads above water financially. Money doesn't come to those who desperately desire it. It comes to those who understand its flow and learn to vibrate at the same frequency. When I started to grasp this, everything changed. I realized that money had nothing to do with physical effort, but with a state of mind. The problem is that most people live in constant conflict with this energy. They say they want to prosper, but at the same time feel guilt when earning, fear of losing, and envy towards those who have it. These emotions create a vibration of scarcity, and the universe responds in exactly the same way. Scarcity. It's like trying to tune into a different radio station without changing the frequency. You'll never hear the right music. Money is attracted by clarity, not by confusion. It thrives on movement, not resistance. That's why when you feel fear, when you doubt yourself, when you believe money is something difficult or dirty, you block the flow. Financial energy stops circulating, and you start to notice this in various ways. Businesses that fail, opportunities that slip away, unexpected bills, delays, unforeseen events. All of this is a reflection of the internal vibration of those who still believe money is scarce. But when you change how you feel about it, everything around you begins to reorganize itself. I like to say that money is like a mirror. It reflects what you feel about yourself. If you believe you are worthy, capable, and that money can be a tool for expansion and contribution, it comes to you. But if you believe you don't deserve it, or that the success of others threatens you, it moves away. Money's energy is neutral. You define its meaning. It's like electricity. It can light up a house or cause a fire. It depends on how you use it. I remember a phase when I lived in fear of looking at my bank account. I'd open the statement and feel a tightening in my chest, a heaviness, as if money were an enemy. I treated it as something that caused me pain, and that's exactly the relationship I manifested. More pain, more lack, more worry. One day my mentor told me something I've never forgotten. Money will never come to someone who fears it, and I understood. I needed to change my emotion before changing my reality. From that day on, every time I picked up my wallet, my phone, or looked at any symbol of money, I would mentally say, "Money flows freely to me from known and unknown sources." At first I didn't believe it, but by repeating it with emotion, something began to shift. The discomfort gave way to gratitude. I stopped seeing money as something distant and began to feel that it was a natural part of my life. When you understand that money is energy, you start to perceive signs everywhere. an idea springing from nowhere, someone introducing you to the perfect opportunity, an investment flourishing against all odds. This isn't luck, it's alignment. You've adjusted your internal frequency, and consequently, the universe has started to respond. The secret lies in feeling before seeing. The human mind has been programmed to believe only what is visible, but energy works in reverse. First you believe, feel, and vibrate, and only then do you see the manifested result. Look at the world around you. The people who prosper most are not necessarily the most intelligent or the hardest working. They are the ones who have understood the flow. They don't force money, they attract it, because they trust, because they vibrate abundance. They don't wake up worried about what they might lose. They wake up excited about what they can create. This is the difference between living in scarcity and living in abundance. And make no mistake, abundance isn't just about having a lot of money. It's about having peace, it's having the freedom to choose what to do with your time. It's knowing that the universe is generous and that there is always more than enough for everyone. When you start vibrating with this feeling, you naturally become a magnet for prosperity. Opportunities seem to appear out of nowhere, but in reality they were always there. You were just tuned to the wrong station. Science today already confirms what spiritual philosophy has always known. Everything is energy. Quantum physics shows that the observer influences the observed reality. This means that simply changing how you view money begins to alter your behavior, your choices, and consequently, your results. Thinking about prosperity isn't empty optimism. It's neural reprogramming. When you think abundantly, your brain starts releasing dopamine and serotonin, substances linked to motivation and creativity. And when you feel creative and motivated, you make better decisions. Do you see the cycle? Energy starts within and materializes outside. Money is energy, but it's also a response. It responds to your confidence, your clarity, and your gratitude. And if today it seems distant, perhaps it's not because something is lacking on the outside, but because there's resistance on the inside. The energy of money is always available, like a radio signal. You just need to turn the dial of your mind and tune into the frequency of abundance. And when you truly do that, you'll realize that money was never the problem. The problem was how you were vibrating. Most people believe they control their own lives, but the truth is that more than 90% of everything you do is guided by unconscious programming. It begins in childhood, shaped by the beliefs, fears, and words you heard from those who raised you. And the most curious thing is that this programming, most of the time, isn't even yours. It's inherited. These are thoughts and patterns you repeat without realizing it, like a melody playing in the background of your mind, dictating the rhythm of your financial life. That's why, even knowing what to do, you remain stuck with the same results. You can study finance, take courses, read books about prosperity. If your unconscious is programmed for scarcity, you will always find a way to confirm that belief. This programming is subtle, yet powerful. It appears in simple phrases, quick thoughts in how you react to money. When someone talks about wealth, do you feel inspired or suspicious? When you see someone prospering, do you think, "I can too," or "they must have just been lucky"? These automatic reactions are the exact reflection of your internal programming, and the most dangerous thing is that, until it's rewritten, you will continue to self-sabotage, even unintentionally. I've seen people with incredible talents, brilliant ideas, and an impeccable work ethic, always living on the verge of financial collapse, because deep down they believed they didn't deserve more than that. I remember the first time I noticed this in myself. I came from a simple childhood, surrounded by phrases like "money doesn't grow on trees," "grasp all, lose all," "the rich are greedy." These ideas seemed harmless, but they took root. And every time I started earning more, something would happen. An unexpected expense, an impulsive decision, a business deal that fell through. It was as if an invisible force was pulling me back to the same place. Until I realized, it wasn't the world against me. It was my mind fighting to maintain what it considered familiar. The subconscious doesn't seek what's best for you, it seeks what's known. And if what's known is scarcity, it will keep you in it, even if it causes you pain. The shift began when I understood that I needed to reprogram my inner self, not just change external behavior. I started observing my thoughts carefully, as one would watch a movie. Every time I caught myself thinking, "This is too difficult, I'll never succeed. I'm unlucky," I would stop and replace the phrase with something different. At first it felt forced, but repetition creates new connections in the brain. Neuroscience today confirms this. Each repeated thought reinforces a neural pathway, and the more you repeat it, the more automatic it becomes. So I started feeding my subconscious with new ideas. I told myself, money flows easily to me. I am worthy of prosperity, abundance is natural. And with each repetition I felt a small discomfort. It was the old programming resisting. But I persisted. Over time, something began to change. I perceived money differently. I stopped seeing opportunities as threats and started viewing them as invitations. That constant fear of losing gave way to a growing tranquility. It was as if I was finally allowing myself to receive. And that's when I understood. Inner programming isn't changed by force, but by consistency. It needs to be replaced, not fought. You don't conquer fear by trying to expel it. You overcome it by nurturing faith until it becomes stronger. Many people ask me why. Even knowing so much about finance, they remain stuck. And I always reply, the problem isn't in what you know, it's in what you believe. You can master all the concepts about investments, planning, and economics, but if deep down there's a belief that it's not for me, or I wasn't born to be rich, your mind will find ways to sabotage the results. It's like driving with the handbrake on. You move, but with effort and wear. Think about it. How many times have you had a good idea, something that could change your life, but hesitated for fear it wouldn't work out? How many opportunities have you let pass because you thought you weren't ready? This hesitation doesn't come from reason, it comes from programming. It's the inner voice that says this isn't for you. But it lies, because everything is possible when you change the frequency of your mind. You've been conditioned to believe in limits that don't exist. To start rewriting this programming, it takes more than positive thinking. You need to feel, visualize, and act as if the new belief is already real. The subconscious doesn't understand words, it understands emotion. When you feel gratitude for money that hasn't arrived yet, you send a powerful vibrational message to the universe. I am already abundant. And the universe responds. That's how it was with me. I started acting as if I had already achieved financial freedom, and the world began to reorganize itself to reflect that. New people appeared, ideas emerged, doors opened, and it all started within the mind. The truth is, you don't attract what you want. You attract what you believe you deserve. And as long as your inner programming is based on fear, guilt, and limitation, money will continue to slip away. But the moment you consciously decide to change what you believe, when you choose to think differently and feel it with intensity, you create a new point of attraction. And it's at that point that the miracle happens, not outside, but within you. Because money is merely the visible reflection of what you invisibly vibrate every day. I discovered that repetition is the language of the subconscious. No true transformation happens without it. The human mind is like a fertile field. Everything you plant there over time takes root. And the more you water that seed, with words, images, and emotions, the deeper it grows, until it becomes a part of who you are. That's how I completely rewrote my story. When I started, I had nothing. I was earning a little over $4,000 a year, and I owed $6,000. It was a cycle of frustration and despair that seemed impossible to break. But then something simple, almost mundane, began to change everything. Repetition. I first listened to Earl Nightingale's audios and decided I would listen to them every single day. And that's what I did. At home, in the car, on trips, before going to sleep. I listened to them until the words stopped being just sounds and became part of my identity. Initially, my rational mind resisted. It said it was nonsense, that repeatedly listening to the same phrases couldn't change my reality. But little by little, I began to feel a silent, almost imperceptible change happening within me. It was as if those words were cleaning a fogged-up pane of glass that had for years prevented me from seeing my true potential. The subconscious doesn't differentiate between real and imaginary. It simply responds to what is repeated with emotion. And that's why so many people remain trapped in the same pattern. They daily repeat thoughts of fear, phrases of scarcity, stories of failure. Each day they reinforce the belief that money is difficult, that they don't deserve to prosper, that success is for others. Without realizing it, they are reprogramming their own minds for limitation. Repetition always happens. The question is, what are you repeating? When I started consciously applying this principle, everything changed. I wrote a simple phrase on a card. I am so happy and grateful now to be earning $25,000 a year. At the moment I wrote it, I didn't believe it. I was broke, in debt, with no prospects. But my mentor believed, and I chose to lean on his faith until my own awakened. I read that card every day, morning and night, and I didn't just read it. I felt it. I closed my eyes and saw myself living that reality. I felt the comfort of paying all my bills, the lightness of seeing my money grow, the joy of being able to help other people. I mentally lived that with such intensity that my subconscious mind began to accept this idea as truth. And that's when the changes began. First, subtle ones, a new client, an unexpected idea, an opportunity I wouldn't have noticed before. Then came the more visible results. My earnings started to grow, and that goal of $25,000, which had seemed impossible, became real. Then came the first 100,000, then 1 million. The secret was never luck. It was repetition. But there's something few people understand. It's not enough to repeat mechanically. Emotion is essential. Emotion is the fuel that brings the idea to life. It's what convinces the subconscious mind that it's real. When you feel joy, gratitude, excitement as you affirm something, the vibration of these emotions penetrates the deepest layers of your mind. This is how new beliefs are planted. And when these beliefs blossom, reality shifts to reflect what's within you. The power of repetition lies in transforming the impossible into the inevitable. When you hear, read, and affirm the same ideas every day, your brain begins to reorganize its neural connections. Neuroscience confirms this. Neurons that fire together wire together. In other words, every time you repeat a new belief, you strengthen a new neural pathway, while the old one, that of scarcity, weakens. And there comes a point where the new idea becomes automatic. That's when transformation happens, when the thought of abundance stops being an effort and becomes your natural pattern. I like to say that repetition is the fastest shortcut between desire and reality, because what you repeat becomes what you believe, and what you believe determines what you attract. Most people wait to feel confident before acting, but confidence is born from repetition. You don't wait to feel ready to change. You change, and then you feel ready. Today, when I talk about this, some people find it too simple, and it is simple, but simple doesn't mean easy. It's a daily commitment. It's looking in the mirror every day and reaffirming the person you are becoming, even when you don't yet see results. It's having faith in the invisible until it becomes visible. Repetition transforms doubt into conviction. It transforms I want into I am. And when your subconscious mind accepts a new truth, the entire universe begins to act in coherence with it. I've seen this happen hundreds of times, in myself and in thousands of people around the world. It all starts with a simple decision, to repeat every day until the new thought replaces the old, because what you repeat builds what you live. And when you learn to repeat the right vibration, life has no choice but to respond in the same frequency. Nature abhors a vacuum. This is one of the most powerful and at the same time most ignored principles when it comes to prosperity. Most people want to attract the new, but refuse to let go of the old. They want money to flow, but they live trapped by the fear of losing the little they have. They want opportunities, but they continue to occupy space with what no longer makes sense. And that's exactly where everything gets stuck, because the universe cannot fill what is already full. For something new to enter, you need to create space. For many years, I didn't understand this. I accumulated things, commitments, people, beliefs. I kept clothes I didn't wear, held onto objects that were no longer useful, maintained relationships that no longer inspired me. I told myself I was being careful, that it was a form of security. But in truth, I was afraid afraid to open up space and have nothing to put in its place. And it's this fear that keeps most people stuck in the same place for an entire lifetime. They say they want to change, but they cling tightly to what keeps them stagnant. I remember a curious experience I had years ago. I had returned from a seminar in Toronto, inspired, determined to apply everything I was teaching. Upon entering my home, I noticed my kitchen furniture had disappeared. Literally. I asked what had happened and they told me, "You keep saying to create space for the new, so we decided to help you put that into practice." I laughed, but in that moment, I understood something profound. When you remove what no longer serves you, the universe rushes to fill the space with something better. And that's exactly what happened. A short time later, I moved to a bigger, more beautiful place, more aligned with the life I was creating. The same principle applies to money. If you want it to flow, you need to make space for it, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. Declutter your thoughts. Eliminate phrases like, "I can't spend," "It's not for me," "I need to hold on to what I have." These ideas create energetic blocks. Money is energy, and energy only flows when there's movement. When you hold back, accumulate, or cling, you interrupt the flow. It's like trying to breathe while holding your breath. Sooner or later, you'll run out of oxygen. Observe how this manifests in your daily life. How many things do you keep simply out of fear that you might need them one day? How many situations do you tolerate out of fear of being without? This fear of loss is what prevents the arrival of the new. Releasing isn't losing, it's preparing the ground. I've seen people completely transform their finances after simply organizing their homes, donating what they didn't use, and clearing out old drawers. It seems symbolic, but it's not. Your external environment is a direct reflection of your internal one. When you create physical space, you send a clear vibrational message, "I am ready for the new." And the universe responds. It always responds. Sometimes with opportunities, sometimes with people, sometimes with ideas that seem to come out of nowhere. But it can only respond when there's space for something to enter. Most people don't realize that attachment is a form of fear disguised as prudence. They say they're being cautious, but in reality they're telling the universe, "I don't trust that something better will come." And the universe respects that. It never imposes abundance on those who choose limitation. Letting go of the old can be uncomfortable. You feel the ground disappear for an instant, but it's precisely in that empty space that the new begins to be born. When you get rid of what no longer serves you, you create a zone of possibilities. And life fills that space with what is in tune with your new vibration. This is one of the most powerful principles I've ever applied. Every time I released something that wasn't aligned, whether it was a business, a partnership, a habit, or even a belief, something better always appeared. Not once, but every single time. I remember when I decided to leave my stable job at the Toronto Fire Department. At the time, it was all I had. I feared the unknown, the emptiness, the uncertainty. But deep inside me, there was a voice that said, "You weren't born to survive, you were born to expand." When I finally made the decision to leave, there was no concrete plan, just faith. And it was exactly that faith that opened up space for the new. A few months later, I had already started my first business, and prosperity began to flow in ways I could never have imagined while I was stuck in the old. This is the secret many ignore. For money to work in your favor, you need to let it breathe. Allow the flow. Donate something, invest in yourself, circulate energy. Stagnant money rots, just like stagnant water. Abundance isn't born from accumulation, but from movement. And movement requires trust. When you trust, you let go. And when you let go, the universe understands it can act. So look around you. See what's occupying space in your life without bringing you joy, purpose, or growth. It could be a belief, a job, a relationship, a routine. Everything that doesn't reflect who you are becoming needs to go. It's not about throwing away, it's about making space. When you remove what is small, you clear the way for what is great. When you release the old, the new finds its way to you. Abundance isn't a prize you win, it's a flow you allow. And the first step to allowing it is simple yet powerful: detachment. Because the universe, like money, loves free space. It will always fill the void with something that vibrates at the frequency of your courage, and the more space you create, the more abundance can enter. There is a moment in every transformation journey when something within you awakens. It's that silent, almost imperceptible point where you finally understand there's no turning back. It's the turning point. I experienced this so intensely that even today I remember the exact instant my mind opened to a new reality. And I want you to realize right now that perhaps this video is being your turning point. Because if you've made it this far, it's because a part of you has already decided to change. When I started applying the principles I teach today, my life was completely different. I was trapped in a cycle of bills, debt, and uncertainty. I used to work tirelessly, but it never felt like enough. I was convinced that life was tough, that money was scarce, and that success was a privilege reserved for a select few. Then one day, while listening to one of the audio recordings I'd already mentioned, something profound shifted within me. It was as if, for the very first time, I truly understood that I was the architect of my own reality. And in that instant, I resolved never again to live with a scarcity mindset. It was a complete paradigm shift. The world didn't change, I did. And as I transformed, the world began to mirror this new version of myself. That's why now, before we proceed, I want you to make a conscious choice. If anything I've said so far has resonated with you, if some part of your mind has started to open, I want you to solidify this moment. Click like, subscribe to the channel, and let this simple decision be your commitment to change. Because every action, no matter how small it may seem, is a declaration of intent. When you choose to act, the universe begins to respond. This is how energy operates. It requires direction, a signal, a command. When I took my first step, I had no idea how things would unfold. But I understood something essential. You don't need to see the entire path, you just need to take that first step with faith. And this faith isn't blind, it's creative. It's the profound confidence that something greater is working in your favor when you set yourself in motion. And suddenly things begin to align. People appear, ideas emerge, doors open. The most intriguing part is that all of this was there all along, but you only begin to see it when you shift the frequency of your mind. The turning point occurs when you decide to stop identifying with scarcity. When you stop saying, I can't, I don't know, I can't do it, and start affirming, I am learning, I am ready, I am capable. These subtle shifts in language shape your vibrational field. Science already demonstrates that the brain doesn't distinguish between what you imagine and what you actually experience. So, when you repeat new truths with emotion, your neurological system begins to react as if they were already real. And when your mind accepts this new reality, the material world reorganizes itself to reflect it. I recall when I started acting as if I was already successful. I didn't have the money yet, but I already possessed the demeanor, the confidence, the outlook. I acted as if I had already achieved what I desired, and that energy completely transformed how people perceived me and how opportunities arose. This isn't pretense, it's alignment. It's living from the future version you wish to create. Because the universe doesn't respond to what you want, it responds to who you are. Many people wait to feel confident before acting, but confidence doesn't precede action. It's built during the process. It's when you take a step without guarantees that you discover the power within yourself. I don't know anyone who has transformed their life by waiting for the perfect moment. The right moment is when you decide you've had enough. Enough of settling for less than you deserve. It's time to align with what you truly want to experience. From the moment you consciously decide to shift your energy, everything begins to move. Coincidences multiply, ideas flow, the right people appear. This isn't chance, it's synchronicity. You change your vibrational field and the universe responds. It has always responded. The difference is that now you are aware of this exchange, and I want you to know that this turning point is irreversible. Once you truly see the power you hold over your own life, it's impossible to revert to believing you are a victim of circumstances. You begin to act with purpose, speak with clarity, think with abundance. And money, which once seemed distant, starts to flow naturally because you no longer vibrate with lack. You vibrate with certainty. I often say that decision is the trigger for transformation. It's the moment the universe understands you are ready to step out of your comfort zone and expand. When you truly decide, everything that is in disharmony begins to dissolve, and everything that is in alignment begins to draw closer. That is precisely what happened to me. I decided and the world responded. Now the choice is before you. Remain in the old vibration, repeating the same patterns, or decide to change right here and now. This is your turning point, and when you consciously choose to grow, life has no option but to accompany you. Because the universe doesn't reward effort, it rewards decision. And your decision to keep watching, to open yourself to the new, to subscribe and continue on this journey, is a clear sign that you are ready to see money and life finally working in your favor. One of the greatest secrets to abundance is something most people completely overlook: the power of creating space. Yes, the simple act of opening up physical, mental, and emotional space can completely alter the flow of your financial life. I learned this in the most unexpected way possible. One day after a seminar in Toronto, I returned home to find my furniture gone. Everything. My kitchen was virtually empty, and before you imagine chaos, what I felt in that moment was relief. I had spoken so often about the importance of creating space for the new that my team decided to take me literally. And you know what? They were right. Soon after, new opportunities began to emerge. More aligned people appeared. More prosperous ideas surfaced. The universe abhors a vacuum. It fills every available space with something of the same vibration. Most people cling to what they no longer want, and that's precisely why the new never arrives. They hold on to jobs they hate until something better comes along. Keep clothes they never wear. Maintain friendships that drain their energy, and worst of all, nurture thoughts and beliefs that no longer serve the life they desire. And then they wonder why abundance doesn't materialize. But it's simple. There's no room for it to enter. When you say, "I'll stay here until I'm sure," the universe interprets it as, "I am content with what I have," and it responds with precisely that. Not out of punishment, but out of attunement. The energy of money is like water. It needs to move. If it remains stagnant, it decays. If it circulates, it purifies and multiplies. Money loves flow. It detests unnecessary accumulation. When you cling to the old, you tell the universe you're afraid to lose. And fear is a vibration of scarcity. Scarcity blocks the flow. Therefore, every time you hold on to something that has lost its meaning, a piece of clothing, an object, a habit, a relationship, you close the doors to the new. It's like trying to fill a cup that's already overflowing. There's no space. I recall when I decided to donate half of my belongings. Clothes, papers, books I no longer read, souvenirs from a chapter that had already closed. That clearing wasn't just physical, it was energetic. In the days that followed, I began to feel an inexplicable lightness. Suddenly, my phone started ringing. New partnerships emerged, invitations, ideas. Everything began to flow again, and I realized that energy responds to clarity. When you release the old, you send a powerful signal to the universe. I am ready for something better. And the most fascinating thing is that this principle is even supported by physics. Nature abhors a vacuum. If you create a space, something will come to occupy it. The question is, what do you want to fill it? If you create space with fear, it will be filled with more fear. But if you create space with faith, it will be filled with abundance. That's why the act of letting go is so powerful. It demands trust. It's a silent way of saying, "I believe there is more coming my way." And when you believe that, the universe confirms it. So look around you. How many things do you keep simply because you're afraid to let them go? How many situations do you endure? How many conversations do you replay? How many thoughts do you feed that are no longer aligned with the person you wish to be? Detachment is a bridge to the new. It's not loss, it's preparation. You're not getting rid of what you have. You're aligning with what you deserve. It's a gesture of faith. Start small. Clear one space in your closet. Throw out what you haven't used for over 1 year. Give away something that could serve someone else. Write down the name of one situation you feel you should have already ended and decide to release it. You'll feel a sense of relief, a feeling of lightness. That relief is the energy moving. It's a sign that the flow is returning. Do the same with your ideas. Stop replaying stories that diminish you. Stop justifying why it hasn't worked out yet. Create silence within your mind. It is in that silence that the new manifests itself. Money is attracted to light, clear, organized environments. It loves clarity and recoils from confusion. A cluttered home, a mind burdened with worries, a heart clinging to the past. All of this creates an invisible blockage. But when you clear things out, when you decide you're ready, when you trust enough to let go, the flow is re-established. You begin to realize that money doesn't come to save you. It comes because you have become the kind of person capable of receiving it without fear. And perhaps at this very moment, you feel that impulse to begin. That is your intuition telling you, now. Don't wait for everything to be perfect. Start just as you are. Every small act of detachment is a declaration of faith in the future. And when you do this with a light heart, life responds in synchronicity. New doors open, new people arrive, new ideas appear. Because the universe understands that you have created space, and a vacuum never remains empty for long. Einstein famously stated that everything is energy, and that simple sentence holds one of the most powerful truths I have ever comprehended. Money isn't paper. It isn't just a number in a bank account, as money is energy. It responds to the frequency you emit, much like a radio tunes into a specific station. And here's what most people haven't yet realized. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. You can repeat 1,000 times that you want to be prosperous, but if inside you there is fear, resentment, guilt, or scarcity, that's the frequency the universe picks up. And it responds with situations that reflect exactly that. Think of a radio station. You don't hear classical music if you're tuned into a rock frequency. Financial life works the same way. When you vibrate with anxiety and worry, it's as if you're saying, I don't believe money comes to me easily. And the universe obediently returns that exact pattern. That's why so many people live in a never-ending cycle of effort and frustration. They work, they plan, they try to save, but they keep vibrating scarcity. The effort is physical, but the vibration is mental. And the universe responds to the vibration, not the effort. I experienced this firsthand. When I started to change my frequency, I was still owing more than I earned. I worked all day and felt drained. But at night I would sit and mentally repeat, money flows freely to me from known and unknown sources. At first it seemed ridiculous. I looked at my negative balance and felt like an imposter. But with each repetition, something inside me changed. I started to feel gratitude for small amounts. I began to believe that maybe, just maybe, I didn't need to struggle so much. Little by little, my energy shifted. And when it shifted, money started to appear. From unexpected opportunities, invitations, ideas that simply came out of nowhere. Nothing changed externally, until I changed internally. Quantum physics has already shown that everything in the universe is made of vibration. Particles respond to intention and observation. This means your emotional state isn't something subjective. It is literally a creative force. When you feel abundance, you emit an energetic signature that attracts everything vibrating at that same frequency. That's why gratitude is so powerful. It amplifies what is already good and creates space for the best. When you give thanks, even without visible reasons, you are telling the universe, I trust. And trust is the highest level of energy that exists. Look at the great examples from history. Thomas Edison, before inventing the light bulb, failed thousands of times. But he vibrated with faith, not failure. Each attempt was a new possibility. He didn't see error, he saw learning. And it was this frequency of unwavering belief that aligned him with the discovery that would change the world. This is the difference between those who attract success and those who get lost along the way. The vibration. Now, think of money as a dance partner. It doesn't respond to force, it responds to rhythm. If you try to control it, it pulls away. If you dance with it, flowing, confident with lightness, it follows your lead. That's why some people seem lucky. They aren't fighting the current. They are in tune with it. You can feel when someone is in this energy. They are people who radiate peace, confidence, magnetism. They don't chase money, money flows to them. And here's the crucial point. To change your vibration, it's not enough to think differently. You need to feel differently. You need to feel prosperous before the money arrives. Close your eyes and imagine, what is it like to live with abundance? What feeling does that bring? Relief, freedom, peace. Hold on to that emotion. Feel as if it is already real. That's what changes the vibrational field. Emotion is the fuel of manifestation. Without emotion, intention is just a thought. But with emotion, it becomes living, pulsating energy, capable of attracting what you desire. Science confirms it. The human heart emits an electromagnetic field up to 5,000 times stronger than the brain, and this field reacts to what we feel. So, when you feel fear of loss, you are sending a powerful force of loss to the universe. When you feel gratitude and security, you are sending a signal of expansion. Life responds to that. It's not magic, it's physics. And perhaps now you're starting to understand, money was never the problem. The problem is the frequency you've been vibrating at. Money isn't scarce, energy is infinite. What limits you is your perception. Change your perception, and the world around you will change with it. And when that happens, you'll realize something fascinating. Money wasn't created to control you, but to serve you. It is merely a reflection of your vibration. When you align with the energy of abundance, money ceases to be a concern and becomes a natural consequence of who you are. So instead of struggling for more money, elevate your vibration. Cultivate peace, gratitude, confidence. Feel prosperous before you see the results. The universe does not distinguish between what is real and what is felt. It simply responds to the frequency you emit. And when that frequency is one of abundance, there is no resistance, no struggle, no effort. There is flow. There are synchronicity. There is prosperity. And it is precisely at this point that money finally begins to work for you. Fear, that silent force that paralyzes so many people and at the same time can become the greatest sign that you are about to grow. Most people see fear as an obstacle, something to be avoided at all costs. But I learned that fear is an indicator of expansion. Whenever you feel fear, it's because you're facing something that could completely change your life. And it is precisely then that most people retreat. They return to what is known, to what is safe, and they call it prudence. But in reality, it's the mind trying to keep you within the old programming, the one that prefers predictable comfort to transformative uncertainty. When I decided to leave my job at the fire department, I had no guarantees, no perfect plan, no promise of success. Just a deep feeling that something greater was waiting for me. And yet, fear consumed me. It was as if a voice inside me repeated, "You're crazy. Who abandons a stable salary for something uncertain?" That voice was the echo of my old programming, trying to protect me from the unknown. But the truth is, if I had listened to that voice, I would have spent my entire life putting out fires, external and internal, and never would have discovered the power of making money work for me. Fear is not an enemy. It is a messenger. It points exactly to where you should go. When you feel fear, it means you are touching the limits of your comfort zone, the point where the old you ends and the new begins. Most people believe they should wait to feel ready before acting, but readiness doesn't come before action. It comes after. It's by acting that you discover that fear didn't have the power it seemed to have. It only seemed big because you fed it with thoughts and assumptions. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward despite it. Fear is like a shadow. It seems giant when you stand still, but it shrinks when you move. I remember the first time I went on stage to speak about prosperity. My hands trembled, my heart raced, and for a moment I thought about giving up. But as soon as I started speaking, the fear dissolved. Within minutes, what was dread turned into excitement, and it was at that moment that I realized, life doesn't reward those who wait to feel safe. It rewards those who act with faith. Many people ask me, what if I fail? And I reply, what if you learn something that success would never teach you? Because failure, when viewed with awareness, is just feedback. It shows you what needs to be adjusted. But if you never act, you'll never know what could have happened. The fear of making mistakes is already the biggest mistake. It's what keeps you stuck in jobs you hate, in empty relationships, in habits that pull you away from abundance. You call it stability, but in truth it's stagnation. Money, like life, loves movement. It flows to those who dare, to those who believe, to those who take risks with faith. Each time you choose to act even with fear, you send a clear signal to the universe. I trust. And the universe responds with opportunities. It could be an unexpected phone call, an idea, a new person. It's as if life says, now you're ready. Faith opens doors that logic would never find. I often say that fear and faith require the same energy, believing in something you don't yet see. Fear believes in the worst. Faith believes in the best. The difference lies in which story you choose to tell yourself. When you believe in the worst, your mind creates scenarios of failure, and your body reacts as if they were real. Your heart races, your hands sweat, and you freeze. But when you choose to believe in the best, when you visualize victory, your body also responds, only this time with enthusiasm, with energy, with magnetism. Fear and faith are opposites only in direction. Both are vibrations, and you decide which one to amplify. The people we admire most, the great innovators, artists, entrepreneurs, are not fearless. They are people who learn to use fear as a compass. Steve Jobs felt fear when he was fired from his own company, but he used that to create something even greater. Walt Disney went bankrupt several times before creating the empire that changed entertainment. The fear was there, but it wasn't in command. They felt it, looked it in the eye, and said, "Come with me." Fear is just a reminder that you are alive, that growth is still possible, that you haven't yet reached your limit. When you understand this, fear transforms into fuel. It stops being a brake and becomes a driving force. With every step you take, the universe responds with a new path, and you realize there's nothing to fear, because life never takes something without offering something greater in return. So the next time you feel fear, don't run. Take a deep breath and ask, what is this fear trying to teach me? Maybe it's showing you the next step in your expansion. Perhaps it's just testing you, asking you to trust. And when you take that step, even trembling, you'll realize what I discovered many years ago. Fear doesn't disappear before action. It disappears within action. And it's at that moment that the universe, almost as a reflection, begins to work in your favor. Because life doesn't reward control, it rewards trust. For years, I watched people searching for magic formulas to change their lives, hoping something external would happen, that a stroke of luck, an opportunity, or someone else would change everything for them. But the truth is, transformation always begins within, and it requires a firm decision, sustained by faith and practice. That's why at a certain point in my life, I started doing something that seemed too simple to work, but which completely changed my financial reality. A small daily challenge of practical faith. I would write these words on a card. I am so happy and grateful now that money flows freely to me from known and unknown sources. And I read it every day, morning and night. At first it was just one phrase, but over time it began to gain power. I would read it and imagine what it would be like to live that reality. I felt the relief of no longer having debts, the security of being able to choose whatever I wanted, the joy of helping those around me. I wasn't just repeating an affirmation, I was training my brain to believe in a new reality. And when your subconscious accepts an idea, the universe begins to move to manifest it. It's at this point that many give up, because they don't understand that the challenge isn't external, it's internal. The struggle isn't against circumstances, it's against old programming that tries to convince you nothing will change. This simple exercise, repeated with feeling and consistency, begins to generate an imperceptible yet powerful transformation. You start to notice small changes, a new idea emerging, an unexpected contact, an opportunity that seemed out of reach. Energy begins to flow in your direction, and life starts to respond to the new vibration you're emitting. Not because something magical happened, but because you finally started acting in alignment with your vision. During this process, it's natural for doubt to try and creep in. Your mind will say, this doesn't make sense. How can a few words on a card change my life? But remember, what creates your reality isn't what you see. It's what you believe. Doubt is the reflection of the old pattern trying to regain control. It's the resistance that arises whenever you approach a new level of consciousness. That's why practical faith is so powerful, because it forces you to persist, even without visible proof. And it's precisely at that point that transformation begins to happen. At one of my talks, a man approached me and told me he decided to apply this same exercise. He was unemployed, full of bills, hopeless, but even so he wrote the same kind of affirmation and started reading it every day. In the first few days he felt like he was lying to himself, but he continued. On the 15th day, he received an unexpected call from a company for an interview. On the 21st day, he was employed and earning more than in any previous job. He said, "Bob, I almost stopped halfway through, but it was exactly at the point where I doubted the most that things started to happen." And it's always like that. The universe tests your persistence, because faith without action is just intention, and intention without persistence creates nothing. I myself have experienced this so many times. When I wrote my first affirmation card, I was in debt. Everything around me said it was impossible, but I chose to believe. Every day I read it, something inside me shifted. Until one day, the external world began to reflect my new internal state. I didn't have to force it. I didn't have to fight. The flow began to guide me. Money started working for me because I changed the way I viewed money. I stopped being someone who pursued it and became someone who attracted it naturally. That's why I propose this same challenge. Write this phrase, keep the card in your wallet, on your mirror, in your car. Read it aloud, feeling as if it were real. Do this for 21 days. This is the minimum time to create a new mental pattern. And as you do it, observe what changes within you, your mood, energy level, ideas. You'll start to notice coincidences, the right people appearing, doors opening effortlessly. This isn't luck, it's resonance. You are finally vibrating at the frequency of what you desire. But the secret is to maintain the feeling. Don't just read it out of obligation. Read it with emotion, with conviction, as if you were rehearsing a new life. And every time doubt arises, replace it with gratitude. Tell yourself, I don't need to understand how, I just need to believe it's already happening. Faith isn't waiting to see to believe. It's feeling before seeing. This simple exercise is the watershed between those who dream and those who manifest. Because while many wait for proof to believe, those who truly prosper are the ones who believe until the proof appears. When you commit to this challenge, you are, in fact, training the universe to recognize your determination. And the universe always responds to clarity and consistency. In a short time, you will realize something I learned decades ago. It's not the world that changes, it's you. And when you change, everything around you changes with you. This small card may seem insignificant now, but it has the power to rewrite your financial destiny if read with faith, emotion, and consistency. With each reading, you plant a seed in the fertile soil of your mind. And just like in nature, seeds germinate in silence before sprouting. So trust the process, keep watering, keep believing, because the moment you doubt the most is the same moment the universe is about to surprise you. Gratitude is one of the most underestimated forces in the universe, and yet it is the most powerful to completely transform your relationship with money, with life, and with success. When I began to understand the true power of this feeling, I realized it wasn't just a polite gesture or a morally correct attitude. Gratitude is a vibrational frequency, a living energy capable of opening doors that effort alone could never achieve. When you feel truly grateful, your body, your mind, and your energetic field come into coherence. And it is precisely this coherence that causes opportunities to appear, resources to multiply, and the right people to be attracted to your life. Science proves this. Research conducted by universities like Harvard and Berkeley has shown that people who practice gratitude daily exhibit higher levels of dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin, the same neurotransmitters associated with happiness, creativity, and mental clarity. In other words, gratitude literally alters your body's chemistry. And the most incredible thing is that when your body changes, your vibration changes. You start to emit a lighter, more confident, and open energy. And money, like all forms of abundance, is attracted precisely by this type of energy. I remember a period when, even after achieving a certain financial stability, I began to feel something was missing. I worked a lot, had results, but noticed a constant weight, a disguised anxiety. Until one day on any given morning, I sat down with a cup of coffee and started listing everything I already had. The simple act of writing, my health, my friends, my home, my mission, began to change the way I felt. What once seemed routine transformed into a privilege. The air I breathed, the water I drank, the sun coming through the window, everything felt extraordinary. And in a matter of days, I started to notice a radical shift in my energy. Meetings flowed better, new ideas emerged, and even money began to come in unexpected ways. It was as if the universe was saying, "Now you are ready to receive more." Gratitude is the most efficient accelerator of prosperity because it focuses on abundance instead of lack. Most people spend the day complaining about what they don't have, and without realizing it, they are affirming to the universe, "I live in scarcity." Every complaint is a declaration of emotional poverty. But when you choose to give thanks, even if you don't yet have everything you want, you completely change your point of attraction. Gratitude isn't about denying reality. It's about choosing where to place your focus, and what you focus on expands. I often say that gratitude is the magnet of abundance. It transforms what is little into enough, enough into much, and much into unlimited. It expands your energetic field and creates space for more blessings. And most interestingly, the more grateful you become, the more reasons you attract to continue being grateful. It's a virtuous cycle, an upward spiral. The universe recognizes the appreciative heart and rewards those who use it with sincerity. Apply this to your routine. Upon waking, even before grabbing your phone, tell yourself, "I am grateful for this new day." Feel it, even if the day hasn't even begun. When you pay a bill, don't complain. Give thanks. It means you are able to pay. When you receive any amount, no matter how small, mentally say, "Thank you, universe. May this money circulate and return multiplied." This simple shift in attitude completely transforms the financial flow in your life. People don't realize it, but money is sensitive. It doesn't gravitate towards those who treat it with fear, guilt, or ingratitude. It's drawn to those who appreciate it, who see it as a tool for expansion. Gratitude clears resistance. It removes the guilt of receiving, dissolves the fear of losing, and creates a magnetic field of deservingness. And the more you feel deserving, the more the universe finds ways to confirm it. The practice of gratitude also has a profound impact on your vision for the future. It shifts you from the "when I have" vibration to the "I already have" vibration. This is one of the biggest keys to manifestation, because the universe doesn't understand time as we do. It responds to the vibration of the now. If you vibrate gratitude now, you are declaring that you are already abundant, and that's exactly what attracts more abundance. Some people say, "But how can I be grateful if I'm going through difficulties?" I respond, that's precisely what will get you out of them. Being grateful when everything is good is easy, but being grateful when nothing seems to make sense is what changes the game. Because by doing so, you affirm that your faith is greater than your fear, and the universe rewards faith, not doubt. I remember a time early in my journey when I was completely broke. All I had was a bill for a few dollars in my pocket. Instead of lamenting, I looked at that bill and said, "Thank you, this is a beginning." And on that very day, I received a call from a friend offering me a work opportunity that completely changed the course of my life. It wasn't a coincidence. It was a response. Gratitude creates immediate resonance. So start now. Don't wait for the right moment to be grateful. The right moment is now. Make gratitude a daily habit, a natural attitude. Every day, write down 3 things you are grateful for. They can be simple: a smile, a meal, a conversation. In a short time, you'll notice you're calmer, more inspired, more confident. And without even realizing it, you'll find that money, ideas, and opportunities are flowing to you with much greater ease. Gratitude is the language of abundance. It's the signal the universe recognizes as "it understood." And when you understand, when you truly grasp that you are already blessed, everything you still lack begins to manifest naturally. Because life doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you vibrate. And the vibration of gratitude is, without a doubt, the vibration of prosperity. Have you ever noticed how when we change the way we see the world starts to change too? Gratitude opens this silent portal to a lighter, more fluid life, where money, opportunities, and the right people simply seem to find their way to you. And maybe someone you know, a friend, a family member, someone feeling stuck, tired, or without perspective, needs to hear exactly this today. Share this video with that person. Sometimes a simple message is all it takes to rekindle someone's faith. Thank you for being here, for allowing me to be part of your journey of growth and expansion. Keep cultivating this energy of gratitude and observe what happens in the coming days. And I'll see you in the next video because your transformation is just beginning.